melodic heavy metal. Playing it heavier, louder, raunchier, faster. 99.1 CJAM. This is the Signals of Intuition. 99.1 CGM FM, you're listening to the Signals of Intuition, 2 hours of melodic hard rock and heavy metal coming your way. That was Dream Evil right there with The Seventh Day off their album Dragon Slayer. And tonight we've got a very special guest on the show. We've got Mr. Gus G of Firewind, Ozzy Osbourne, Dream Evil, Arch Enemy, Mystic Prophecy, Night Rage, and many other bands. He'll be sticking around for the first part of the show, so let's see if we can get him on the line right now.
Hello?
Hi, Gus.
Hey, man, how are you?
Hey, good. It's Brandon from CGM FM. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Sorry, I missed that. I just jumped out of the shower. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Do you need more time to get ready, or?
No, I'm all good. I'm ready. It's all good.
Oh, fantastic. I'd like to sort of start by beginning talking about your early career, and then we'll sort of work our way up to what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So what were some of your earliest musical influences growing up, and what influenced you to become a guitar player?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing started with, after actually hearing the record Frampton Comes Alive by Peter Frampton. This was a record that my dad had at home. He was playing that vinyl, and when I heard Frampton soloing and doing the talkbox guitar effect, I was just amazed. I was nine years old then, so I went up to my dad and I asked him to buy me a guitar and start taking lessons. So he got me a classical guitar instead of an electric that I wanted. So but yeah, that was like my first kind of like exposure to rock and roll.
And then, so later on, I take it you sort of discovered, guitar players like Uli John Roth and Yngwie and all those guys, eh? How profound were those guys on you as a guitar player?
Yeah, that was like a few years later, though, when I was 14 or 15, Obviously, after hearing Yngwie Malmsteen, it changed my life. I mean, I couldn't believe that somebody could just play that technical and that fast, and play all this classical music stuff on an electric guitar. So, I mean, that was a life-changing moment there after I heard him on the Trilogy album. So I really dedicated myself to practicing 8 to 10 hours a day since then, and started listening to other guitar players, shredders and nuts, all kinds of players. I mean, I would listen to anything that would cross my way, really, from blues to all the the guys, the 80s guys from the Shrapnel label, Paul Gilbert, Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, all those guys,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was growing up. Guns N' Roses, Metallica were big, so I was into all that stuff. So it was a lot of hard rock and metal, really.
Yeah, and then later on you attended Berklee School of Music and met Joe Stump. How sort of influential was he in terms of your career?
Well, it was cool to go to Berklee and see a teacher that that was a metalhead actually to start with, and he was probably the only guy that I could connect with. The other teachers that I had were jazz dudes, so I was really into what I was doing in this kind of music, and Joe was the only guy that understood that completely, and I took lessons from him, and even when after I dropped out from Berklee, I took lessons privately from him, and he was a cool guy. He encouraged me, and he helped me to put my first demo recordings together, suggested like a studio, and he suggested his drummer to help me out and stuff, so he was very nice to me.
Did he help you out with the first demo you did, what was it called, Symphony?
Nocturnal Symphony.
Nocturnal Symphony. Was that the one he helped out with, or was it Between Heaven and Hell?
No, he helped out with that demo. I mean, when I say he helped out, he hooked me up with the studio guy and his drummer and stuff, so he was, he gave me tips. I mean, I didn't know, that was basically my first attempt to write any songs. So, I mean, hence why that demo sucks, but you have to think that it was like I was 17 years old and I had no clue what I was doing and had nobody to help me. So he was like the only guy there. He probably saw this kid from Greece that was trying to, get somewhere, and he helped me all he could. So he was a very nice guy.
Mm-hmm. And then, so a couple of years later, you released Between Heaven and Hell. How did that album come together?
Well, it started by doing that demo, Nocturnal Symphony, and then I got mainly negative feedback from label, if any feedback at all, from all the labels that I was sending my stuff out to. And then I started doing some instrumental demos on my 4-track, and I sent them to the label that Joe Stump was signed, that was Leviathan Records, that was owned by David Chastain and David actually he bothered to get back to me. He actually liked what I was doing, and he wrote me a nice letter and said, "You're pretty good actually for your age, and all you need is to put some vocals in your ideas, and you could make some great songs. So keep working on it, and keep me posted." So I kept sending him demos every 2 weeks. I basically busted the guy's balls for like years and years, but that helped me develop my style and my sound, and my demos became better and better, and then he would give me like tips and direction and stuff, and eventually I had enough material. And around 2001, he decided that he would sign me to Leviathan Records, and that's how Firewind came together.
Also, around this time, you met Fredrik Nordstrom and would go on to play in Dream Evil. How did you meet him, and how did sort of that whole band come together?
That's because I had a friend who had a band called Exhumation. It was a band from Greece, and they were recording in Sweden, and it's Fredrik's studio. So I traveled with them to Sweden in 1999. They went to record an album, so I went there to hang out and see what's happening in Sweden. It was a big thing, the Swedish scene then, and still is. So I went to check things out there, and I met Fredrik, and apparently, he was producing albums, but he wanted to make his own band at some point. He was tired of being behind the console, and he asked me if I wanted to write songs with him, and that's how me and him formed Dream Evil. I mean, at the same time, I was still sending demos to Chastain, to Leviathan Records, so I had that on the side, and also I kind of kept my cards open and see what would happen with all these things.
So what's it like working with Fredrik, not only as a songwriter, but also having him produce you as a guitar player and songwriter yourself?
Well, I mean, when we started out, like I said, I had no clue, so it was a big learning experience for me, like a big school, just being in his studio working with him. And he would teach me all these tricks about recording and double tracking, and he taught me how to record rhythm guitars left and right and make them tight and all that stuff. And it was great stuff that I had no idea about, or I saw how he would get his sounds and all that stuff. It was fantastic. I mean, Fredrik didn't have the best social skills sometimes. He he could be pretty insulting, but I mean, all things considered, he was the first person that really helped me when I was in Sweden all alone.
Yeah, and then so in addition to being a member of Dream Evil and Firewind at the time, you were also a member of Mystic Prophecy. And although I really like the albums that you did with the band, I don't really know much about them. How did you get involved with this band out of Germany?
I think it was through a journalist in Greece at that time, while I was still doing demos and stuff, and he suggested to me, he had done an interview with me for some magazine here in Greece, and he said, well, you should meet this guy, Leah. He's a Greek guy that lives in Germany, and he's a great singer, and he's trying to put a new band together. So I sent him some of my Firewind demos that I was sending to Chastain, and I said, we send it to this guy, to Leah, and I mean, he immediately called me, and he asked me to play guitar on his upcoming project, and I think it was the summer of 2000. I flew to Germany, and we did the first Mystic Prophecy record. He had all the material written and stuff, and I mean, it wasn't really stuff that I really liked, but I thought it was okay, and it would be, it was my first record, and gaining experience, working with different people. And then, but he was a cool guy, and we hooked up, and we became friends, and I decided to stick around, and we actually wrote 2 more albums together.
Were you rather a proper member of the band, or were you really just sort of a session guy who'd come in and help during studio recordings?
Yeah, I mean, I started out as a session guy, but then, like I said, we became friends, and then he asked me to join the band, so I was like a proper member of the band, Then I co-wrote the next 2 records, and it was like a proper band, but I mean, somehow, we had to follow a certain, like Leo, obviously he was the leader of the band, and he was he was a guy with all the contacts and stuff and everything, and at that point I was also having my stuff going on, and I just decided that I just wanted to do Firewind, stick with Firewind after a couple of years.
Yeah, and then just before we sort of jump fully into Firewind, another band you sort of became known for before you joined Ozzy was Arch Enemy. How did you come to step in for that gig?
Well, Michael Amott, he called me up in 2005 and told me that he needed a guitar player for the touring that was about to come because his brother had quit, and he just asked me to come to Sweden if I was interested. So I flew to Sweden, and we hung out with the guys a couple of days. I auditioned for them, and they were very happy, and that's how I got the gig. And I ended up doing the tour, the Ozfest in 2005. That was it.
What was the plan for you ever to join the band, or you knew this was just a touring gig and that was it?
Well, I mean, they were happy with what I was doing. They wanted me to continue and do the whole world tour, which was like they had like another 18 months of touring ahead of them. But for some reason, I kind of felt like that was gonna be like an open position. And I mean, Chris Samuel is Michael's brother, and I knew at some point that Chris was gonna come back to the band. I don't know, I just somehow I felt it, and I said to the guys, I said, this is not for me. I'd rather. That was actually that summer where I made a big decision to quit all the other bands that I was in and focus on Firewind and make that my priority. And I realized that I didn't want to play for anybody else. So yeah, that's why I quit Arch Enemy.
And then, so, like, to me, the first 2 or 3 Firewind albums, they really sort of seem like, I love them, of course, but they sort of seem like solo records, and I think around the time of Allegiance or maybe Forged by Fire, the band sort of really became a band.
Yeah. Well, the first attempt was with Forged by Fire, because, I mean, we had a tour in Japan after Burning Earth, and I realized that I had no band, so I put a band together with guys that I didn't know, but I met them. I asked them if they wanted to tour with me in Japan, and then with that lineup, we made Forged by Fire. But soon enough, we realized that it wasn't working out with that singer Chitty, and also we had a Norwegian drummer Stian who was playing in a band Pegasus Mine.
Yep.
So it was like guys from other bands and just helping me out and stuff. And at some point, like I said, then I got the gig with Arch Enemy. But during that summer, I realized that I need to put like a real band together, and if anything would ever happen, we need to be a real band and actually go out there and play lots of shows. And so yeah, I mean, I went back home in September 2005, and I called up Apollo, and we auditioned also Mark Cross here in Greece, and he was a great drummer. So we kind of like got like, that was the lineup where we recorded Allegiance, and yeah, that's when we actually started doing our first world tours.
And in terms of the last couple of Firewind albums, are you still like sort of the songwriter of all the stuff, or has it become really sort of a collaborative band effort?
Well, I mean, I write most of the music. I would say about 80% of the music, and then Apollo always wrote the lyrics and the melodies, and I wrote some of that stuff as well, but it was mainly the singer's job. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then for years and years, you guys had Fredrik Nordstrom involved in the mixing. How do you record Firewind albums? Do you record most of it in Greece and have it sent over to Sweden to be mixed, or do you go to the studio and sort of do the whole record there from the ground up?
Well, every record has been different. There's no specific formula. Allegiance was entirely done in Sweden. We all rented the studio in Sweden, and we lived in there, and we recorded there for a month, and then we mixed at Studio Fred. And then I think we did the same for Premonition. But then with Days of Defiance, we recorded in studios here in Greece, and then we mixed the album in Finland, in another studio. And that's what we did also for Few Against Many. We recorded our parts here in Greece. I think Apollo recorded his vocals in Sweden. And then we mixed the album in America.
Do you do a lot of reamping and that sort of thing? Or do you sort of keep all the tracks you do and sort of have them mix them as is?
Well, we record both the amp signals and the clean signals, and we do reamp stuff. It's a combination of both, Some tones we keep original and some we reamp.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I was just curious about that. Okay, and so now perhaps the biggest thing you're known for in North America now is Ozzy Osbourne. How did that gig come together, and what's it like joining the likes of Randy Rhoads and Jakey Lee and these other guys?
That actually came for an email from his management at some point in 2009, and I had no idea that Ozzy was looking for a guitar player. So, I was shocked, when I got the email. I was like, what the hell is this, But yeah, I said, of course, I really want to audition, and I learned a bunch of songs, of course, and a couple of weeks later I flew to LA, and yeah, we did the audition, and it went great, and got the gig right there the same day.
And Ozzy's obviously known for a lot of notorious stunts and crazy antics and that sort of thing. Have you witnessed any of that stuff?
No, not really.
He's really sort of mellowed out in the last little while, eh?
Well,
he's not biting the heads off bats or anything crazy like that anymore.
No, I think he only hit that bat once, but nowadays he has this big foam gun or something, and he sprays foam at the people and then washes them off with water. So he's he's still crazy as fuck, But he's mellowed out, He's sober and everything, and he doesn't do drugs anymore and stuff. And he's very cool, very calm guy. But Ozzy is Ozzy.
Oh, for sure. And then you also played on the latest Ozzy album, Scream. How involved were you in the writing and recording of that album? I think somewhere I read that you only played the guitar solos, or were you more involved than that?
I played all the guitars, both rhythm and leads. I wasn't involved in the writing actually. It was all done. I mean, I maybe added some stuff here and there, like some acoustic intro on "Digging Me Down," and that's about it. You know, they needed some acoustic intro, but I mean, all the stuff was written when I joined because Ozzy wrote the whole record with Kevin Churko, and I think they co-wrote some songs with Adam Wakeman as well. So, but they had to have a guitar player, you know, that was during the whole transitional period and getting a new guitar player and stuff. So I went in there, you know, and I listened to those songs, and they had no solo sections at all. So, you know, they gave me the free to go in there and add solos and everything, and replay all the rhythms and riffs and try to, you know, they asked me to make it more like as a guitar player would play them, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Now, are there any plans for you to continue with Ozzy? Because right now, obviously, he's busy with Black Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, same here. I don't know what's happening. I mean, he's obviously very busy with Sabbath, so we'll see when that tour ends what happens after, you know.
Are there any plans for you guys to do any more writing together, anything like that? Like, do you think if he does another album, you'll be more involved, or is it too early to say anything at this point?
Yeah, exactly. It's too early. I don't know. I mean, you know, it's there's so many factors to those decisions. You know, who's going to be producing, who's going to be writing. You know, I have no idea.
Fair enough. What sort of gear are you using these days in terms of guitars and amps and effects pedals and that sort of thing?
I use ESP guitars. I've always, well, not always, but most, like the last few years, the last 8 or 9 years, I've been using ESP guitars, and I have my own models out of, you know, from line like Signature series of guitars.
Well, I tried your Signature LTD model, and I got to say I was very impressed with it.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, they're good guitars, man. They're really well made instruments, and I mean that's what really stick around, and I really believe in those guitars. It's basically because of the guitars themselves, you know. They just make killer instruments. And I've been playing Black Star amps for the last 3 years. They're like a company from Northampton, England.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've heard of them. I have no idea even how they even sound. Are they very much like sort of a 5150 Engels sort of sound, or how?
I mean, they're a high gain amp, but it's different from those amps. It's different. They have their own. I mean, they have that British vibe, but they also but also have a bit more modern as well. So they combine like the vintage British rock sound, like the Marshall, with like the modern high gain stuff. So to give you a good example, all the guitar tones on Scream were done with 200 of Black Star. So that's kind of like how it sounds.
Oh, I see. And do you use any like effects pedals or anything like that?
Just a few. I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff. I only use a wah, and I have a chorus pedal, and I have a little booster pedal, like a little overdrive that I use from BBE. So yeah.
Oh, so you're not a big, you know, pedal board guy with 55 effects. You're very much sort of straight into the amp.
Not really. No time to fucking tap dance on stage, you know.
And I'm curious, do you remember what amp that was used on the early Firewind and Dream Evil albums? Because that's one tone that I've always sort of held as sort of like one of the ultimate metal guitar tones.
Well, well, thanks, but I mean, it depends what album. I used different stuff back then. Each album was different.
Oh, okay. Can you
So
are there any you can remember offhand, or not really?
No, I remember what it was. I'm just not sure which album exactly are you referring to.
Oh, like Between Heaven and Hell, or Dragon Slayer, or, you know.
Dragon Slayer. Now, here's the thing. I mean, these are two different situations because you see, Dragon Slayer was recorded in a state-of-the-art studio, Studio Fredman, and we had the best amps there. I think we recorded with Engel amps and PV amps or whatever it was, or some Marshalls, like a combination of amps. But for Between Heaven and Hell, there was no budget at all when I was making that record, so I recorded everything in my own 8-track in my room, and I recorded the guitar tones. I mean, I had to engineer the record myself. I had no clue how to put a mic in front of a speaker, and I had no amp, so I borrowed a friend of mine. He had like a Fender Rock Pro combo, which was like one of their high gain combo or something. That's basically the tone on Between Heaven and Hell.
Really? Because that's a monster tone that you got on that record.
I don't know how the hell that came about, actually. I mean, a lot of people tell me that's the best tone you ever had on that one. I'm like, it's a cheap amp, and I think I probably made a mistake. I had no idea like when I'm how to mic the amp. So I think there was some phasing problems because I recorded 4 rhythm guitar tracks to make it sound thick and everything, and I think there was some phase problem, with the miking and all that stuff. So that's the tone right there, I think it's probably a lot of engineering mistakes, but it sounds like that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Frederick mixed that one, right?
He did mix it. So he in the end, he brought it all together and made it sound great.
Oh yeah, he works some serious magic.
Yep.
Okay, so jumping back to Firewind and sort of what you guys have going on now. In 2012, you guys decide to switch mix engineers and going with Jason Sukoff, who's done a lot more or modern sounding bands like Trivium. Were you going for an American sounding style mix, or why the change?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted the album to sound a bit heavier and a bit more American because I mean, there was a lot less keyboards on Few Against Many and a lot more guitars, so I wanted to have that heaviness on it. And I had heard what Jason and A.L. Levy were doing there, the Audio Hammer Studios, and I really liked it, So, I had a chat with those guys, and I really liked them, and they were really excited to work with me and the project, and I thought it was a good idea. I'm very pleased with the work they did.
Mm-hmm. And then you guys also worked with Apocalyptica on one of the songs. How did that whole collaboration come together?
Well, I mean, it was an idea that I had for that song. I just wanted to add some cellos on it. I thought it would make it better, and I just called up our manager and said, "How about Apocalyptica?" And I said, "Okay, do you mind sending the demo to the manager?" And I mean, see what they think, or if they even bother replying or something. But a few days later, they got back to us and they're like, "Yeah, cool track. We'll do it." That's how it was.
And now, sort of working with American producers and working with Apocalyptica, are there plans to bring Firewind into a more mainstream direction, or are you always going to sort of keep it your brand of European power metal with sort of a bit more modern elements?
I mean, we've always kind of like done that. I mean, we've always been like a more modern power metal band, I would say. Even if you look like stuff that, I mean, some of the songs that we had that were a bit more commercial hard rock and stuff. So, I mean, we were always a band that had like those 3-minute songs, we were never really proggish or too far out there. I mean, the musicianship level was really good, but it's never that we had two technical tracks. I mean, the idea with that record was really to make a different record and not make the Premonition Part 2 or Allegiance Part 3, if you want to call it like that. It was just to kind of like try and evolve the sound, evolve it, like see what would be the next Firewind record. I mean, do we copy what we did before, or I mean, I was not into that. I wanted to move ahead and see what would, and obviously getting elements like groove and heaviness back on the front line. That was kind of like, that was what was interesting to me at that time, and I still enjoy playing those songs live. I mean, Few Against Many, the title track, it's one of my all-time favorite songs that I ever wrote for this band.
I love that one too.
You put a set list together live, and we still play 4 songs out of that album on our shows, which I guess that tells a lot,
Mm-hmm. Do you guys feel you finally have the drumming situation solved with Johan Nunez? Because you guys have had an awful lot of drummers over the years.
Yeah, we were, we're big Spinal Tap fans, so we try to catch up with them.
Well, the only thing is none of yours have died, as far as I know.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we will never be that good, I know, but at least we tried. But no, I mean, all kidding aside, Joe has been great, and he's been in the band for 2 years now. So yeah. I mean, he's hopefully he'll stick around. Yeah.
Is it pronounced Joe, by the way?
I mean, we call him Joe, but his full name is Johan.
Okay, good. Okay, just want to make sure I got that down.
Yeah.
And of course, speaking of lineup changes, at the start of 2013, Apollo announced that he was leaving the band. Do you know why he sort of decided to leave now, especially given the level of success you guys have sort of finally been achieving as of late?
I was not really surprised that he quit now, because he had quit before on several tours in the past, and so I mean, I think he always didn't really see himself as a full-time musician like the rest of us. He had a job back home, and he always wanted to keep that job and his family and everything. So we were different. We were not like all on the same page. So whenever the touring schedule would get too heavy, he would just kind of like jump ship for a while, and then he would come back. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he took this decision for himself. To step down from this and stop pulling the brakes on the band, and it's a relief for us as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, so for the current North American tour, you guys brought in the great singer Kelly Carpenter.
Yeah.
Is he just a touring replacement, or do you think he'll join the band on a permanent basis?
So far, he's just touring with us, and I mean, when the time comes to start writing the album, we'll see what our options are and everything. And I mean, I'm hoping we can continue with Kelly. We haven't discussed any further right now because there are no plans to go back in the studio. But he's been really good. He's really delivering live, and he's been getting great feedback from the fans and everything. And he's a great guy and a phenomenal singer. So let's see what happens.
So you guys don't have any writing plans as of yet?
Not really, not right now. No. I mean, we're putting out a live album and we're doing some festivals, and maybe we're gonna do some more shows by the end of the year, and probably then we're gonna take a break after that.
What can you tell me about the new album, Apotheosis?
Well, I mean, it was kind of like the idea behind it was to because we were recording all of those shows on the last European tour last year, and then we did those 10th anniversary shows last December here in Greece to celebrate the band's 10th year in discography, since the first album came out in 2002. And the idea came then to record those shows as well, and maybe put out a live album to celebrate that. So that was the idea behind it, but I guess it coincides together with Apollo's last recording. So it's I don't know. It was probably meant to happen like that. I don't know.
Did you guys sort of pull tracks from sort of individual shows, or is it a full
Yes.
show recorded the whole way through?
Yes, it's just individual tracks from different shows. I mean, it's not like a live set list. I would like the way we would do it. It's pretty similar, but not exactly. So we just we took the best performances from several shows.
I read somewhere you're working on a solo record.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Actually, I'm like in between festivals. I'm working on that. I'm finishing up the writing, and probably that I'm gonna be doing a lot of that next year.
What do you have any idea what direction it's going to be? Like, do you think it'll be sort of Firewind without a singer? Like, will it be instrumental, or are you going to work with a bunch of different musicians, or like what can you tell me about it?
It's gonna be like Firewind. It's just that I mean there would be no point for me to do another Firewind record and not call it Firewind. So it's gonna be more. It's more straightforward rock and roll stuff. You know, maybe a bit more classic rock influence, some more bluesy stuff. There's a lot of mellow stuff on it, a lot of acoustic guitar on it, and then
Hello, Gus? You there? Can you hear me? Oh, geez. Oh, the internet's been disconnected. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get this sorted out. And until we do, here's Dream Evil with The Prophecy, and hopefully we'll be back with more Gus G. Stay tuned.